Hi everyone, my name is Vanessa Diag and I will be presenting on Burger King's A Day Without Whopper in Argentina. The background of Burger King. So Burger King was founded in 1953 and headquartered in Miami, Florida. It specializes in flame-grilled fast food hamburgers. It is the second largest hamburger chain in the United States behind McDonald's, and the chain has over 14,000 stores in 100 countries. It is the most established fast food chain in Argentina, along with McDonald's. The mission, vision, and values. Burger King's mission is to offer reasonably priced quality food served quickly in attractive and clean surroundings. Its vision to be the most profitable QSR business through a strong franchise system and great people serving the best burgers in the world. Its four values are teamwork, family, excellence, and respect. The opportunity. So Burger King has put a particular emphasis on growing its business in Latin America. Burger King has emphasis on growing in Latin America for a variety of reasons, which include its growing middle class of consumers with money to spend on discretionary purposes. Burger King has a big issue competing with McDonald's in Latin America, particularly in Argentina. Despite Argentina's recent political and economic problems, the country still presents a great opportunity for these U.S. fast food giants. So, the opportunity that arose from this is that McDonald's has McHappy Day, which is an annual fundraising campaign of donating $2 to children with cancer for every Big Mac that it sells. So this presented Burger King an opportunity to show goodwill and hijack McDonald's press using a campaign surrounded by McHappy Day, and the campaign I will further discuss in the presentation. So also, corporate social responsibility is growing in Argentina, and the campaign that I'm going to talk about is a very noble example of corporate social responsibility. SWOT. So for strengths, Burger King has a large distribution and reach across the world. It has a wide product range. It has flame grilled burgers, which are very popular in Argentina, and its franchising model helps reduce operating costs and increase benefits. Weaknesses. It has a large market concentration in US. It has ineffective advertising and PR campaigns. It has a lack of customer loyalty, and it has an easily imitatable business. Opportunity. There's a high demand for Burger King in Latin America. Also, there's growing corporate social responsibility in Argentina, and there's an increase in healthier food options due to rising health attitudes in Argentina, and there's joint partnerships with schools, hotels, and etc. So for threats, it's in constant competition with McDonald's, and it experiences changing consumer eating habits in Argentina. Also, there are new entries in Argentina's fast food market, and there's a culture of eating home cooked meals in Argentina. The history of Argentina. So, Argentina's Buenos Aires, which is the capital, was established in 1580. In 1816, Argentina declared independence from Spain. In 1853, it established a constitution and became a republic. Now, from 1942 to 1976, this was known as the Perón era. And this was because President Juan Perón was very influential during this era. This era was characterized by high political action, such as a reconstruction of Argentina's constitution and the country being overtaken by a military coup. From 1976 through 1983, Argentina experienced a military dictatorship and a dirty war. For those who are unfamiliar with the Dirty War is a period of United States-backed state terrorism in Argentina. From 1976 to 1983, as a part of Operation Condor, during which military and security forces and right-wing death squads hunted down any political dissidents and anyone believed to be associated with socialism and left-wing Peronism. So, for those who know what McCarthyism is, that Dirty War is very similar to what the McCarthy era was in the U.S. From 1983 through now, Argentina experienced the Argentina-Britain War and its current president, President Mauricio Macri. So the British War, which is also known as the Falklands War, was a 10-week undeclared war between Argentina and the United Kingdom over two British dependent territories in the South Atlantic. And in 2015, the current president, Mauricio Macri, got elected. The political system of Argentina. So Argentina currently has a republic form of government and is a representative democracy. The president of Argentina is both head of state and head of government. The executive power is exercised by the president. Legislative power is vested in the National Congress, and it consists of senators and deputies. The judiciary is independent from the executive and from the legislature, and under the judiciary, we have courts, and the courts are separated into federal and state courts. Argentina has two large political parties, the Justicialist Party and Radical Civil Union. So the Justicialist Party, aka PJ, evolved out of Juan Perón's efforts in the 1940s to expand the role of labor in the political process. The second major party, the Radical Civil Union, was founded in 1891, and traditionally this party had more urban middle-class support, whereas PJ had more labor support. Corruption Perception Index. So Argentina, based off the graph you see here, has a score of 40 out of 100 for CPI, with 100 being the least corrupt and 0 being the most. So corruption in Argentina remains a serious problem. Argentina has long suffered from widespread and endemic corruption. Corruption remains a serious problem in the public and private sector, even though the legal and institutional framework combating corruption is strong in Argentina. The economic development of Argentina. So I'm going to read some quick facts about the country and its economy. One, its population consists of 44.1 million people. The GDP is $922.2 billion. Its unemployment rate is at 8.7%, and its inflation rate is at 25.7%. According to the other image you see here, you see the economic freedom score of Argentina, which is 52.2 as of this year. So Argentina's economic freedom score makes its economy the 148th freest in 2019. The economic freedom score measures the degree of economic freedom in the world's nation, with 0 being the most free. So here Argentina ranks in the middle of the score. Argentina's mixed economy faces mounting problems such as an increasingly devalued currency, the peso. It has suffered from a decade of inflation, external debt, capital flight, and budget deficits, and the country possesses abundant natural resources, adequate infrastructure, and sufficient human capital, but lacks the conditions to take advantage of such assets. Despite all this, Argentina's economy is one of the more powerful in the region, and its economy is currently dependent on services and manufacturing. The media system. So, based on the image here, you can see that Argentina earned a score of 57 from the World Press Freedom Index. Argentina's media system is characterized by a strong and concentrated private media system. It is comparatively weaker public media organizations, and in spite of relatively high levels of news consumption, citizens tend to distrust both the media and politicians in Argentina. Media and their regulation are often politicized, and the law to regulate convergence between broadcasting and internet services is yet to be considered by Congress. The state media has been considerably weakened by big budget cuts under the current president, but overall, Argentina's media is one of South America's leading markets. Internet media penetration. So the two images I have here, the graph shows the internet user penetration of Argentina. Currently, it is at 85%, which is very high, and it's expected to grow to 94% by 2023. And the other image shows the annual digital growth of different type of media platforms in the country. So as you can see in the graph here, Argentina has a very high internet penetration rate. It's among the highest in Latin America. And this is partly due to the fact that 92% of Argentinians live in cities, so the media is way more accessible to them. And online and smartphone access to news has achieved a dominant position among the population. Almost 9 out of 10 online users get their information from the internet each week, more than any other source, including television, which is at 76%, and print media, which is at 42%. Social media is a very popular source of news. It's used by 72% of the country, including 60% who get their information on Facebook, 37% on WhatsApp, and 27% on YouTube. 7 out of 10 mention a smartphone as a device to access information, compared to 63% that access news on their computers and 17% that use a tablet. The literacy rate of Argentina. So this image is basically showing how, according to UNESCO, Argentina has an adult literacy rate of 99.13%, which is extremely high. Only in a few countries is female literacy rates above male literacy rates, and in Argentina, 99.14% of all women aged 15 years and older are literate, compared to 99.1% of men. So here I'll be talking about Hospe's cultural dimension in Argentina. In regards to the power distance of the country, Argentina scored a 49. So power distance, this deals with the fact that all individuals and societies are not equal. It expresses the attitude of the culture towards these inequalities amongst us. So at a score of 49, Argentina sits on the low end of PDI rankings, and the source of this low score on this dimension is rooted in its former migration waves. Also, appearance is very important to them and in this dimension. Individualism. So the fundamental issue addressed by this dimension is the degree of interdependence a society maintains among its members. It has to do with whether people are a part of an individualist or a collectivist society. With a score of 46, also in this dimension, Argentina sits in the middle rankings. So because of the migration waves I mentioned earlier and the early emergence of wide middle classes, Argentina is by far the most individualist of all Latin countries. However, it still has some collectivist traits, like valuing the opinion of and obligation towards the family and extended family. Masculinity. So a high score on this dimension indicates that the society will be driven by competition, achievement, and success. Argentina scores a 56 on this dimension, reflecting the presence of slightly more masculine than feminine elements in our society. Uncertainty avoidance. This dimension has to do with the way that a society deals with the fact that the future can never be known. This ambiguity brings with it anxiety, and different cultures have learned to deal with this anxiety in different ways. At 86, Argentina's score is very high on this dimension, and so is the majority of Latin American countries that belong to the Spanish Kingdom. These societies show a strong need for rules and elaborate legal systems in order to structure life. The individual's need to obey these laws, however, is weak. Corruption is widespread, as I mentioned earlier with CPI, and the black market is sizable. Long-term orientation. So this dimension describes how every society has to maintain some links with its own past while dealing with the challenges of the present and future. And societies prioritize these two goals differently. Argentina, with a very low score of 20, is shown to have a very normative culture. People in these societies exhibit great respect for traditions and have a relatively small propensity to save for the future and a focus on achieving quick results. And finally, indulgence. This dimension is defined as the extent to which people try to control their desires and impulses based on the way they were raised. Relatively weak control is called indulgence, and relatively strong control is called restraint. Argentina's high score of 62 in the dimension means that it is a country that falls under the category of indulgence. People in societies classified by a high score in indulgence generally exhibit a willingness to realize their impulses and desires with regard to enjoying life and having fun, which is very much a part of Argentine culture. They possess a positive attitude and have a tendency towards optimism. In addition, they place a higher degree of importance on leisure time and act as they please and spend money as they wish. Now, finally, I'm going to talk about the campaign. So a little overview before I play the campaign video is that in September of this year in Argentina, Burger King launched a campaign called A Day Without Whopper, where it stopped selling its top-selling product, the Whopper, for a whole day in order to redirect customers to McDonald's and increase its sales. So the reason to initiate the campaign was to help McDonald's with their annual fundraising campaign, McHappy Day, where, as I mentioned before, customers donate $2 to children with cancer for every Big Mac they sell. In effect, Burger King sacrificed its own sales for a full day, letting McDonald's sell an extra 73,437 Big Macs, raising a record amount for the charity. So, such large-heartedness and sacrifice is largely unheard of in corporations. Burger King revealed that not only did it remove Whoppers from sale in all 101 of its Argentine restaurants, but customers disappointed with the lack of Whoppers were actively encouraged to seek out a nearby McDonald's and buy a Big Mac instead. Even the chain's mascot, the King, went to a McDonald's store and purchased the Big Mac himself. And there was tons of images of Burger King and Ronald McDonald shaking hands, which won hearts on the internet and on social media all week. Now here's the campaign video.
Hoy no tenemos Whopper.
Una Whopper, no hay chance.
¿Y otra?
Estás jodiendo.
No, es en serio.
No va a haber Whopper en todo el día en ninguno de los locales de Burger King.
¿Pero cómo no va a tener Whopper?
Sí, vamos a hacer más.
¿Vos sos el responsable o
Sí.
por qué no me estás atendiendo?
La idea es que ustedes crucen enfrente a la competencia para comprarle su hamburguesa insignia. La que no hace las hamburguesas a la parrilla.
A ver si entiendo. Vos me decís que vaya a y que le compre un acá en vez de comprarte a vos acá.
Pero ayudar como, o sea, nosotros lo que hacemos es solo ayudarlos a que tengan más clientes, solo por hoy.
Suena raro que te digan. Si quieren un Whopper, vayan a
Me da mucha ternura, ¿por qué tiene que haber una competencia entre las marcas?
Terminé acá, pero fue por una buena causa.
¡King!
Like any other campaign, this campaign, of course, had to target its primary and secondary publics. So the primary public for this campaign was Burger King customers, and the demographic for them is that they range from 15 to 40 years old. Psychographics are that they're health conscious, charitable, appearance driven, and they have kids and families. The approach taken with them to reach them is that the campaign is charity driven, which is one of their psychographics, and appeals to a wide age range, as the customer base consists of a wide age range. Its secondary public is the general adult population in Argentina, the non-customers. So the demographic for them is that they range in all ages. Some psychographics is that they have kids and families, they value homemade foods, they value dining with their family as well. The approach taken from them to them was that the campaign and press from the campaign would ultimately reach them. The second secondary public are McDonald's customers. So the demographic for them are that they are 15 to 45 and they have children. Some psychographics include that they're also charitable and appearance driven, which was mentioned earlier in one of Holstein's cultural dimensions. And the approach taken with them is that the campaign is based on McDonald's. So because it is based on McDonald's, it is obviously targeting McDonald's customers as well, and sending the mascot, the Burger King's mascot, to McDonald's stores. Goals and objectives. The goals for this campaign were to take part in the growing corporate social responsibility efforts in Argentina, to increase media exposure domestically and internationally, and to establish brand personality. The output objective was to help raise McDonald's donations for its cause. Impact objectives. So impact objectives consist of informational, attitudinal, and behavioral objectives. The informational objective is to increase awareness of Burger King's initiative to help McDonald's charity goal. The attitudinal objective is to positively change the attitudes of the Argentine public on the image of Burger King. The behavioral objective is to increase the customer base of Burger King. The timetable for this campaign. So the timetable here is a little interesting in the sense that, like normal campaigns that occur over months or weeks, this one only occurred over one day. So in 2017, the inaugural year of the campaign, it occurred on November 10th, and they called it a day without Whopper, as it is called now, and it also occurred on McDonald's McHappy Day. The same thing occurred on 2018, and the same thing occurred in 2019, except that instead of having the event in November, they had it in September 26th. And the timeline is short, and that is intentional because they wanted shock value. No one was supposed to see this coming, so they didn't want to do anything that would give people any clue that something is going to happen in the near future between Burger King and McDonald's. As per the budget, there was no budget released for this campaign. The theme and key messages. So for this campaign, the theme was to emphasize the importance of community and unity. And the messages: 1, competitors can come together for a good cause. 2, Burger King is willing to take risks with its sales in ways other companies typically do not do. And 3, Burger King is more than a fast food chain. It is an organization that helps its community too. Media channels. So the media channels that I'm going to explain are very limited compared to other media channels used in other campaigns. The media channel primarily used here was YouTube. As I mentioned earlier, 27% of the population uses YouTube. So that is one of the reasons why they chose YouTube. So the campaign video was released on the platform in Spanish with English subtitles. Social media. The campaign/initiative was not posted on any social media platform of Burger King Argentina, but the flyer related to the campaign was released on Facebook and Instagram of the David Agency. And the David Agency is the PR agency responsible for this campaign. Print media. There was no print media used leading up to the event. However, there was subsequent press, obviously, that came from the event, and this earned media coverage came in the form of print media along with other forms of media. There was no official webpage created for this campaign. So the flyers. So they use these online flyers, and they post online and printed flyers, and they posted them. If you saw in the commercial video, these were in the menu screens. These images appeared, as well as in, excuse me, I'm so sorry, I lost my train of thought. So these two images here appeared in the campaign video and appeared on the social media of the David Agency, as I mentioned earlier. One is in Spanish and one is in English. The one in English was used internationally in terms of the subsequent press they got. This is what the international media outlets use, the English one. And in Argentina, they primarily use the one in Spanish. This flyer. So this flyer in particular was released after the campaign, and it has the success of the campaign, the stats, and as you can see here, it has Ronald McDonald and the King holding hands, which represents the two competitors joining forces. The implementation. So here I'm going to talk about the strategies and tactics used in this campaign. So strategies. 1, to connect with target audience through a traditional owned and shared media campaign. 2, to persuade target audience to view BK as a charitable company through the campaign. 3, to emphasize the unique qualities of Burger King menu items and keep the Whopper in the press by the campaign. Tactics. So 1, when turning customers away, employees mentioned go to the place without flame grilled burgers. As I mentioned in the third strategy, flame grilled burgers is one of the defining characteristics of Burger King. So although they were telling people, go to McDonald's, they also said, go to the place without flame grilled burgers. So even though you're going there, you're still missing out on a really essential item that other places don't have, that other fast food companies don't have. 2. Burger King's mascot went into a McDonald's store to purchase a Big Mac and interacted with the customers there. I think this really was the peak of this campaign, to have its own mascot go in and actually contribute to the sales of McHappy Day. And not only that, it was also great press, and it was another way to insert Burger King into McHappy Day by having the mascot physically in the store. 3, they posted a campaign video on YouTube only and avoided other media platforms. They did that because, like I mentioned before, had they had build-up press or posted on other social media platforms, it would have made it seem like they were doing it for press. And as I mentioned earlier, the Argentine public is very, very skeptical of these types of campaigns and the news in Argentina. The fourth tactic used in the campaign were that the words McDonald's and Big Mac were avoided in the campaign video. And finally, they produced only one flyer that was representative of the entire campaign. Circuit of culture. So here I'll be going over the circuit of culture that influenced the campaign, along with other environmental factors that made the campaign the way it was. So 1, representation. So the campaign video is in English and Spanish. The campaign had to avoid doing a lot of press, partly because, as I mentioned before, Argentine publics are highly critical of this type of gesture. So with the campaign video being in English and Spanish, one interesting thing to mention is that it wasn't just regular Spanish, it was Argentine Spanish. So in PR in Argentina, the regular Spanish is more formal. There's a difference between Spanish and Argentine Spanish. The video made sure to use Argentine Spanish to connect with the domestic public in Argentina. Also, English, the campaign wanted to get press internationally, so they knew they needed subtitles in English to reach an international crowd. Identity. So Burger King's campaign is designed for those who want to take part in a great cause. And as I mentioned in the psychographics of the public audience, being charitable is one of the characteristics of Argentina's publics. So of course, they would want to create a campaign that embodied the charitable aspect of the country. Production. This came in the form of a communications campaign, a PR campaign. Consumption. So the target public of this campaign were able to decode the message that competitors can come together for a good cause, and Burger King is willing to forfeit profit for a charitable reason, unlike other companies. And finally, regulation, which comprises controls on cultural activity, which ranges from formal legal controls such as regulations. And the government of Argentina does not strictly regulate the way media and communications is done in the country. Therefore, there weren't too many legal controls that they had to consider when making the campaign. PR in Argentina. So public relations is still an emerging industry in Argentina. It's an emerging industry throughout much of Latin America as well. It also currently is transferring from a focus mostly on tactics towards strategies and programs. So also, the importance of public relations is being seen. So there are currently more than 80 consultants in the market and 2 professional councils of public relations, which are the Professional Council of Public Relations and Professional Council of Public Relations of the Buenos Aires province. So these 2 agencies are concentrated in the capital. Also, there's more education of public relations in higher level education, such as colleges and universities that are now offering 5, 4, and 3-year programs in public relations. And however, public relations in Argentina lacks the size, scale, and maturity of that in the United States. Evaluation of objectives. So the output objective, McDonald's sold 73,437 more Big Macs than last year, which increased its typical proceeds to the Cancer Foundation. For impact objectives, for the informational objective I mentioned earlier, this campaign achieved 201 million impressions and tons of earned media around the world. such as media from New Zealand, South Africa, the United States, Mexico, Canada. For the attitudinal objective I mentioned earlier, this campaign achieved noticeable increase in positive engagement from the brand due to multiple positive comments and press from the campaign. And finally, from the behavioral objective I mentioned earlier was, again, to increase customers for Burger King. The staff were unavailable, but Burger King did likely increase its customers. Summary. So, A Day Without Whopper is designed to help McDonald's raise proceeds for Children with Cancer Foundation in Argentina. The campaign allowed BK to practice corporate social responsibility. And finally, the campaign was widely successful in terms of earned media coverage and increasing proceeds to the foundation. Key takeaways and my analysis of the entire campaign. So, 1, communication plan success goes beyond profit, as seen here. Burger King did lose some sales that day, but that really wasn't an issue considering the large amount of press they got. 2, fast food companies and other forms of companies need to go beyond just selling their product if they want to create a lasting impact in their industry and with their publics. Again, here is where corporate social responsibility comes to play, and it's exactly what Burger King has been trying to do, especially with this campaign. 3, overall, I believe it was a very effective PR campaign. It was a good public relations as well. It was good public relations as well as a noble example of corporate social responsibility. From a PR standpoint, BK was smart to do what they did since it actually allowed them to become secondary publics to McDonald's charity campaign, McHappy Day, and made the publics aware of its participation. That not only allowed BK to associate itself with a great campaign that isn't even theirs, but it also allowed it to increase its brand awareness whenever people went over to McDonald's because of it. So in a way, it was a genius response on Burger King's part to respond in the way that they did to McDonald's campaign because it made it look as if they were ambushing it. Also, this unusual behavior was able to become newsworthy and gain Burger King a lot of earned media as McDonald's have. It was an amazing way for Burger King to implement itself within its shared publics to not be forgotten or known one of the fast food joints that were negatively affected by yet another one of McDonald's great campaigns. So yeah, McDonald's had a great campaign with McHappy Day, but Burger King having a campaign on the exact same day also put them in a great light. So I believe it was a double win for Burger King because no matter what their original motive was, they still got to support a great cause, which was fighting cancer, and get tons of earned media from it. Positive earned media, particularly from it. Recommendations. So finally, my 3 recommendations are utilize social media more, such as Instagram and Facebook are very popular in Argentina, even though they avoided social media prior to the campaign. I believe after, in terms of sharing the success of that campaign, that should have happened on Instagram and Facebook. And on their Instagram and Facebook, not the PR agency they use, social media. Also, I believe they do need to create build-up for A Day Without Whopper for subsequent years because the shock value of the campaign is now gone as it has become annual. And 3, I believe they need to use other forms of media besides YouTube for the campaign. And this is my presentation on A Day Without Whopper by Burger King in Argentina. Thank you for watching. And these are my sources.